Welcome to the Mentors and Moguls podcast, your source for the inside scoop from some of the world's most accomplished business leaders, athletes, and creatives on how they've achieved success. I'm Heather Stone, a serial entrepreneur with a passion for helping others to overcome challenges and discover their untapped potential. Join me and our guests as we teach you how to break through those barriers on the way to crushing your goals. In each episode, I dive into a new topic with an inspiring mentor to find out exactly how they overcame obstacles, slayed self-doubt, and achieved their goals. Today's expert mentoring session is about to start, so grab your pen and let's dive in. My next guest traded her flourishing career as an actress and model in Hollywood, living amongst the sharks, to literally live amongst the lions in South Africa. Leanne Yammin is an author, activist, model, actress, and she broke through the ceiling to pursue her childhood passion to become one of the first female park rangers in South Africa. Join me as we take a deep dive into the life and mindset of this amazing woman. She has not only broken through barriers, removed old stereotypes in South Africa, but she is flourishing in the bush in Africa. Leanne is a true pioneer and blazing a new trail for women all around the world. Welcome, Annie. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Heather.
I'm so happy to be sharing your story with my audience today. There's so much to talk about. So let's get started. I want to take you back to the very beginning. You left a budding acting and modeling career in Hollywood, and you chose a more simple life of living and working as a ranger amongst rhinos and all the other animals in Kruger National Park in South Africa. Is this true? And tell me how that came about, that big pivot.
Yes, it is absolutely 100% true. Since I was a little girl, I always knew I was going to try and be a game ranger one day when I grew up. And first I wanted to travel the world though, because I knew or had a feeling I would settle out in, the wilderness area. So I wanted to travel and see the world because there's so much to see and there's so many beautiful wilderness areas all over the world that I wanted to explore. So I did that. I did end up in Los Angeles for a while where I did a lot of traveling on the western part of the USA, which was awesome because you have such amazing national parks on that side. And yeah, when I turned 30, I thought I need to do this because it was a kind of now or never situation. So I moved back to South Africa and I moved 2,000 kilometers north of where my family home is. So pretty much on the opposite side of South Africa to where I grew up into the bushveld.
Well, that is an amazing journey. So I was reading that you had left, the glamorous life and the beautiful adventurous life. Well, not all of the adventure, obviously, for the mud and the sweat and the tears. So when you decided to become a game ranger, I can't imagine that there were very many females that had pretty much blazed that trail in front of you. Do you know very many female rangers? Is that common, or are you kind of one in a million?
Yeah, it's not common at all. When I started, there was only one female that was working where I was working, but she left probably 6 months after I started. But I had never, ever known a male or a female ranger. Where I grew up in Cape Town, it's a very different. South Africa's got such a variety of vegetation. So where I grew up, being a game ranger wasn't really something that everyone did. Hardly anyone did. And I just never, ever, ever knew what I was going into, but I knew I wanted to get up there and give it a try. So yeah, I was one of two when I moved here. Then she left and I was pretty much the only female for about a good 4 to 5 years working up here.
So what were some of the challenges? How was it different for you? I can't imagine, I've worked in a male-dominated field and eventually more women came into it. That is one thing in the boardroom, but you're out in the bush. What was different for you than some of your male counterparts?
Wow. So much, but so little. We, as females, I think, have quite a gift that we are able to actually do a lot and get get away with a lot more, which I think is quite forgiving and nice. For instance, I would often put a flower behind my ear while I was taking a game drive, or I'd put a feather in my hair, while on safari, or screech if a spider fell down my shirt. And you know what? It didn't matter. But then when I needed to turn it on and start, tracking lions or getting up close to bigger profile animals, where my guests in the back, male and female, would really start getting quite nervous, I was there to calm them and to reassure them and to teach them why we are okay to be where we are. And I think that was always quite something for the guests that I drove over the years. I think they learned quite a bit from that. But I think as far as working with the males, it's also very much the area that I'm in. The local tribe in this area is Shangaan, and they are the culture runs strong. It's very traditional still, so there's a certain place a woman is meant to be. And, that is how it has always been. But of course, now in the last, I think, 5 years or so, that's starting to change quite a bit. But still, it took quite a getting used to. I remember one of the men saying to me when I arrived here, when I was training, he asked me what I'm doing, trying to, train to be a ranger. And he said, "That's ridiculous. I belong in the laundry."
Oh, sure. And how did you respond to that?
Oh no, I laughed.
Funny.
That's hilarious. I mean, you can only laugh at that. I can't take offense. I've heard so many things, and I think when you hear, people sort of making comments gender related or race related or whatever it may be, it just gives you a bit more insight into what kind of person you're talking to, so it's okay. You learn more that way.
Well, you've got phenomenal people skills, but let me talk a little bit about your animal skills. So the people that are listening to this, driving in their car or working out or taking a walk, what you can't see right now are pictures of Annie with ginormous lions, an entire pride all walking around her, huge game animals. All right, so I have to pause for a minute. Were you intimidated the first time you came face to face with a lion? Are you just one of those animal whisperers that just keeps her calm and feels very one with nature?
Yes, I do feel one with nature. I think we are all one with nature. It just is a matter of trusting that. And I, in my vehicle, getting up close to these animals, there's a really beautiful thing that happens between us and them. Lions, for instance, here we come in this huge, big, green, noisy vehicle with 8 people in it. And a pride of lions have been sleeping out in a field the entire day, or maybe 3 or 4 days without seeing anyone. And, we sort of slowly come up into their space. Of course, they lift their heads and they look at you, and then they flop back down again. They don't care. And I think that's often a surprise to my guests. I think they think often I'll have people say, "Do they know we're here?" I mean, of course they know we're here. They could hear us coming 5 kilometers away.
Right.
And then, they flop back down. And sometimes they would, maybe if they're suckling their cubs or they're grooming each other, they're just doing what they would naturally do if we were not there. And that is what you want from your safari, is you want to view animals in a natural state, whether you're there or not. And yeah, they trust us just like we trust them, because believe me, there is nothing stopping 14 lions from jumping into a vehicle physically and taking all of our heads off. There's nothing stopping them other than they don't want to.
That's amazing.
And I think that's quite beautiful. Yeah.
It is. It is. Well, I am dying to come and go on safari with you once all of this nonsense is over, our lockdown situation is over. That when you're saying that, I'm getting a visual image of, 6 to 8 people in an open Jeep driving up to a pride of lions. And I'm thinking, if I was a lion, I would be thinking, oh, lunch cart.
Yeah, exactly. But not at all. Not at all. It's a beautiful trust. So I think that is what it does surprise a lot of people. And that's why people often leave, or always do leave, with a very different feeling about nature and where our place as humans is in the wild.
Well, I love the fact that you were kind of acting as a bridge right now for our listeners, talking about the beauty and the natural state of animals and humans residing side by
Mm.
side. So, when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that oftentimes people go through major life events and find themselves signing up and traveling to see you and signing up for a safari. They like to get back to nature, whether it be a divorce or a death in the family or something traumatic in their life. Can you expand on that? Do you find that as a general rule? And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was really beautiful for me. I went into this job thinking, cool, I'm going to learn about animals and I'm going to sit with animals because that was obviously my primary interest in taking up this job, and not just animals, trees, birds, insects, everything. But I ended up quite surprised through this job because I ended up learning more about people than I would have ever dreamt I could have. I always joked that my benches behind me were like a sofa in a shrink's office. People would sit in the back. Usually people come in couples, if not a group of friends. So I'd have three different couples that don't know each other. They could be from anywhere in the world. And yeah, most of the time they would become very friendly with each other and very open. People sort of talk without inhibitions. They kind of just, sometimes would get really deep about things that may have happened prior to their trip or the reason why they took this trip. I had a lady that came on her own once, and she was actually on her honeymoon, but between her wedding and this trip, her husband had died.
Oh,
And it was really amazing because she still came because it was their dream to come on safari. And when she met me on deck before we went out, I'll always go chat to people and kind of want to find out what their expectations are and their hopes are. And she told me the story, and she showed me the list that her and her husband had made together of the things that they would love to see. And for those 3 or 4 days together, we were trying to find the animals that he wanted to see. And it was really beautiful because all the other people, the other couples, the two couples who were strangers to everyone, were also in on it and they loved it. And there was a real, there's often this like camaraderie that happens. People leave becoming like best friends. I hear of people that meet up in New York or in London or in France afterwards, and they met out here in safari and they go back and stay in touch with each other and go out for dinners and holidays together, and it's beautiful. It's very therapeutic. People start to unravel. They become quite vulnerable out here. When you start unraveling and peeling away all of this like stuff that you cover because you're trying to protect yourself in the world, you don't want to get hurt. So you start showing your vulnerability, and when you show your vulnerability, you become raw. And when you raw, you are truly able to get as close as your soul can to, or as close as you can to your soul and what your soul wants. And it allows you to make decisions, and it allows you to feel things that you may not have felt for a long time. And I think that's why it's so important, because people go away with a sense of like really just like they come on safari for 3 days and they could be gone for like, it could feel like they were gone for 3 years. It makes such a difference in their lives.
well, you and I are both in the same type of business. Yours is much more glamorous and exciting for sure.
Not always.
But by that, I mean that I am all about champion positive transformation in people and in women especially. And you are, it sounds like they go through quite a transformation process. You just explained that. So isn't that wonderful that you get to witness and be a part of that?
Yes, it is. It's I'm very, very privileged, and a lot of these people have become very close to me, so much so that I fly over to the States nearly every year and I go visit them. And I last year, we were traveling and we went to visit over 25 of the guests that we had driven. And in their homes are photographs of their safaris. There's photographs of me on their wall.
Wow.
These are people that I've known for 3 days. And it's very beautiful to see that. I have a lot of men, but a lot of women that will always come to me when they leave, either with tears in their eyes or a handwritten letter, or I'll get an email from them as they get home. And, they tell me how their lives changed and how they were, that job that they were stuck in that they were telling us all about while they were on safari. They quit. They got home and they quit. They didn't want to do it anymore. Lots of them just changed their lives. They're big changes that happen often. And it's beautiful I love knowing that I had a little part to play in that. And I think as you said, I'm the link between the humans that come out here and nature. And it's nature that does all of these beautiful things to people. It's so powerful.
Wow. I'm just kind of fantasizing about being there one day. So I love the picture that you're painting for me. You love it out there in the wild. You've got beautiful landscape and obviously all of nature's creatures out there. What lesson or lessons have you learned from the animals that you wish every human on Earth could actually learn today?
Wow, that's a great question. It's a great question because I often think about that. And I think that we are more resilient than we think we are, physically for sure. I wish that people would let their kids play more, get dirty, not worry so much about the silly things that don't really matter. It's the outside time. It's the time where they really, get to spray the water hose on each other and jump in puddles and crawl through the grass and all of that kind of stuff that I think is, it forms children. It certainly is what, developed me into the person I am. I was outside all the time as a child. And to this day, I still love, people say get your hands dirty, but I physically love my hands to be dirty. If I see dirt under my nails, I am happy. That means I'm happy. And, I know. But yeah, I think, just trust yourself, trust that we are power. We are true love. We're able to do so much more sometimes than I think we give ourselves credit for. Seeing these animals out here, what they go through is it is next level. They, of course, they're not as complicated, sure, as humans are, but what they do not have is there's no they're not manipulative. You know what I mean? They do what they need to do. If they need to eat, they're going to go out and look to hunt, and they're going to go hunt and hunt and hunt and hunt until they get it right. They're never going to give up. I've seen animals, lions, leopards with broken limbs. They look like they are on death's door, and they continue. They fight. They get themselves up and they keep moving, and they go out there and hunt. If they can't hunt, they will steal a kill from another animal. They will do whatever they need to do in order to come right. And I think we just need to think a little bit more. The next time you stub your toe and want to take a painkiller for that, do you really need the painkiller? It's okay. Like just be gentle with yourself, but also give yourself like a little bit of a push sometimes to not always just take the easy route.
That is a beautiful message. As you were saying that, I was thinking, boy, we really have gotten lazy. We have our own cushy, comfortable lives, and everything comes to us. Even our food comes to our door already prepared. We've gotten quite lazy. So maybe we all need to take a page from what you just said and get up and be a little tougher. Those are great words to live by. Let's pivot a little bit. You and I met in a very unconventional way, and I was laughing about it the other day, thinking, wow, I'm glad I sat where I sat. Do you want to share how we met?
Yeah, so we met, you and your husband, at the US Open in Pebble Beach was it June or July? June last year?
I think June, yes.
Yeah. It was freezing cold. It was, misty. And I mean, I believe it's always cold in Pebble Beach, but for us,
it was unusual
as South
weather.
Africans,
Yeah, it was unusual
it was
weather.
really cold. And we sat next to each other and started chatting. And we shared your blanket, your navy blue blanket, because that you'd also bought because it was so cold. And that's how we started chatting. And it was amazing how we got onto all of this, and the books and the reason why we were traveling and all of that. I love stories like that.
Well, we started chatting up, and as the listeners can clearly understand, you are very easy to talk to. So we started chatting up, and I was more fascinated with your story than I was with Phil Mickelson, who was walking actually in front of us. But it was great for me. My husband was enamored with Phil Mickelson, and I was enamored with talking with you about your story. So you are also an author. Tell me what inspired you to be an author, and tell us a little bit about your books and your cause.
Okay. So, last year, 2019, actually 2018, my husband and I got married. I got married late at 38. I just hadn't found the right person that I wanted to settle down with. And we decided that we wanted to go do a big round the world trip together. So obviously we had these jobs that we just loved. So it was like, okay, well, when are we going to do this? I'd already been guiding for 9 years. So, it's a long stretch. Usually rangers will stay in the industry for sort of 4 to 5 years. So I needed a break. It's every day on 8 hours a day. So I was ready to take a bit of a break. And so we resigned from our jobs in February last year. Then we bought round the world tickets, and we kind of planned our route all over. We spent 3 months in the States. But the only problem with that is that we didn't have money.
Mm-hmm. But you did it anyway.
Yes. So we were like, okay, well, I'd always wanted to write kiddies book. And I just thought, well, now could be a great time because most of my guests are Americans. They would probably be the ones to support this book. So I decided to not only write one book at that time, I just decided to push out 2 at the same time. And I released them last year, June, in the USA. And it was perfect because I knew that the money we would get, I kind of did the math, okay, if a book costs $16 and I sell this many, this would work out for this. So then at least every day we could have a budget of like $50 and, we could eat that and that and that and that and kind of like breaking it all down. And, at the time there were no sales guaranteed, but I just knew it would work. I think when you trust something so much, or when you're passionate about something, you trust it. You have no other choice because you believe in it. And that is what I believed with these books. I developed them because I want to teach adults as well as kids. Lots of kids will never get the chance to come on a safari. So I wanted to bring that to them. And the money that came in from the books throughout the last year is what kept us going. And, it was beautiful. We said no to nothing. Yes, yes, yes to everything. It didn't matter. We were doing it. If anyone invited us anywhere, if we wanted to go on a boat trip to see dolphins off Hawaii, if we wanted to go hot air balloon over Denver, we did everything that came our way that just, was shouting at us to do. And it was an amazing trip. Yeah.
I think that's the story there's so many layers to that. The faith that you had, because one thing that I help people to say is, when are you going to have enough faith in yourself to make that jump to do something you really want to do? Even if you don't have everything figured out, obviously it's best to have a plan, but you really let your gut and faith guide you through, and it did. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have a mentor along the way? We talk a lot about mentors and advice. Did you have a mentor that kind of helped to guide you, whether it may have been a ranger, it may have been somebody completely different? And if so, what advice did they give you that stuck with you?
Because of the industry I'm in, obviously, this is where my love lies, is in nature, and not just in nature, and conservation, how to sustainably exist and have a future for where humans and animals and wilderness spaces can coexist successfully together. And in 2012, I actually started my own NGO for rhinos, and it's called Our Horn Is Not Medicine. And basically, I wanted to start raising funds for the field rangers and for the canine units in the area that I live in, which is very affected by rhino poaching. So I did not know how to start an NGO. I just knew I wanted to do something. And, little by little over the years, it sort of grew and expanded. And I became involved with people and started working with people that I really looked up to even before I started working with them. And, I kind of found my way to them. Mm-hmm. I knew who they were. I looked up to them, but I found my way to them so that I actually work with them, on a weekly basis, actually at the moment, sometimes daily, and where I get knowledge. I understand a lot more from them. So they are kind of my go-to people conservation wise. But to be honest, if I had to tell you if I had a mentor, I do have a mentor, but it's not a human. It is a lioness who I've known for 10 years. I followed her, and I know her ways extremely well, and she has probably done more for me than anyone has ever done, just, inspirationally. And I look up to her, and it might sound a bit crazy, but she's taught me a lot.
Wow. Okay. You're the first guest that I've had say that they had a lioness as a mentor, but I actually love that. So, all right, dig deep now into your memory and think of, what was an aha moment? You learned something by watching her, by being around her, watching her actions. Is there one thing that you can identify to say, she taught me this lesson by doing X, maybe?
Well, I think she's not indifferent to any other lionesses. She is the lead lioness of her pride. She happens to be very big. For your average lioness, she is huge, really, really powerful. I've seen her and her sister alone take down a full-grown male buffalo, which, to put a perspective, she probably weighs about 180 or 190, which is very heavy for a lioness. Mm-hmm. A buffalo bull weighs 800 kilograms. Okay.
Wow.
So usually it takes an entire pride of like 4 or 5 lions to take down a big buffalo like that. Buffaloes are extremely dangerous. And she took it down with her sister, who were at that point raising 21 cubs along with the other 2 sisters who weren't there. They were babysitting the rest of the cubs. So, she was taking down this buffalo along with her sister to feed her family. It was incredible. It was nice to watch them take down the buffalo because there's this beautiful, nearly telepathy between lionesses when they hunt, the synchronicity of their movements and how they've got it. They know exactly what they're doing. If you think about it, lots of these animals, but say a lion pride in particular, how well they must know each other. We know our family members. Well, we try to know our family members as well as we can. But lionesses or lions spend every single second of every day together. That's a lot of time. So, and they are on a different sort of nearly cellular level where they really. I think you can start, if you spend a lot of time with someone, you start getting in tune with each other, right? Mm-hmm. So you can see it with these lionesses. And I think, like I was saying, she's not different to any other lead lionesses. They provide for their families. They protect their families. They are also very, very tender. When you watch them, not just grooming their little cubs, grooming their sisters and their sons of 4 and 5 years old that are about to get kicked out of their pride. It's very, very beautiful to see how they can, turn it on and switch it on when they need to. But the rest of the time, they're there to really look after the livelihood of their family, which is, there's lots of lions that they raise throughout their lives. Lionesses can live up to about 16 years or so in some areas. So, and they're having cubs maybe every 3 or 4 years. So it's a lot of care. They have to be so patient teaching their cubs to hunt that's a difficult thing to do. You see the hunts get bust by these little cubs that are too keen, and they give their presents away, and then the whole hunt that they've been on for like 1 or 2 hours is blown. So then they've got to go elsewhere and go start again. But never is there any, human traits, obviously, the grumpiness, the snappiness, there's none of that. It's like, okay, well, let's go walk back to each other. It's okay, groom each other, fall on top of each other, play around a little, and then continue on, go hunt somewhere else.
Lots of lessons in that entire story that you just said. That's terrific. That's terrific. Have you ever had a setback or a challenge in your life that was just, I didn't expect this. This came out of left field, and you really had to dig deep and figure out how to get over and how to keep going? If so, how did you step your way out of that challenge in order to move forward?
Yeah, I've definitely had a few setbacks here and there. I think just to go back really far, I was orphaned at birth, and I was very lucky to find adopted mother and father that took me and my brother in. And I think from that stemmed a lot of independence from a very, very young age, extremely independent. I still am. I think that's also why I probably got married so much later. But I felt fortunate to be given time and another chance, at life, and to not waste a second. So I'm very much about time and how much time we have and making the most of our time, So yeah, I've had a few setbacks. I always fight hard to shine and come through it. But I think my solace is in nature. It's where I always go back to, because like I said earlier, that's where you feel raw. It can hurt sometimes to be so vulnerable and so raw. But it's great. It's a great place to do that. Why not? Sit under a tree or be in the park or watch some birds or the clouds float over you or have a swim in the sea. That to me is all the therapy I need. So yeah, that's where I turn to always.
Wow. Okay. Do you have a mantra that you live by? Something that you say to yourself? Anything come to mind?
I have a saying that I often use, and it's actually by Dr. Zeus. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's how did it get so late so soon? And again, it comes back to time and time, being so precious. It's something that we'll never have enough time unless we do life right,
Well, you are definitely doing life right. I can say that. Absolutely. So here's my three questions I love to ask every guest. Looking back to let's say your 27-year-old self, what one thing would you tell your younger self not to waste so much time doing X? What would that be?
This might sound a bit weird, but when I was 27, I think I would say to myself, keep doing what you're doing. I knew what my path was, and I'm very grateful for that. And I've always been very determined to stick to what I enjoy and do what I enjoy. That's been very, very important to me. After school, those conversations with the parents, and university comes up, and all of these sort of pressures to go fit in and do what everyone else is doing. I did not go to university because I just felt like it was not for me. There was nothing that I, at that point in my life, knew I wanted to do except become a game ranger. And you couldn't do that at university. So that's when I decided to go travel for a while and, work other little jobs here and there. But I think, if I look back at myself at a young age, I don't have anything someone asked me this the other day if I had any regrets, and I don't have any regrets. And I'm very happy about what my path was when I was 27.
Well, that is wonderful to hear. So it sounds like we kind of wrapped up both questions. The next question is, what would you tell your younger self to do more of looking back?
To do more of?
What do you wish you spent more time on?
I know. Eat more.
I wasn't expecting that either.
Eat more good food. I don't know. When you're younger, you don't really like like care too much about like, because I traveled all over the world and I wasn't like into the cuisine. And now like when I reached sort of 30, 35, I'm so into food now. I love, like, I'm a bit of a foodie. I absolutely love different kinds of foods from all over the world. So when I was 27, I definitely was not exploring all the different delicious foods that I should have.
That is such a great answer. I love that. I love that. All right. What is happiness for Annie? What does that look like for Annie?
Happiness to me is simplicity. The less I need, the better I feel. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. I totally get it.
So I like to, if I go on holiday, this also is going to sound crazy to a lot of people. I leave my cell phone at home before I get on the plane or wherever I'm going. I do not take a cell phone with me because I don't want to be in contact. I just like to be in the world somewhere. And that to me is nice. I don't like things and stuff. I have very little. Everything I own fits into one suitcase, so I can go. If you need me, I'm there. 5 minutes, I can pack up my house. I just take what I need. And then I think, I love watching the sunrise. I watch the sunrise with my husband every single morning. We watch the sunrise, no matter where in the world we are. I love tracking lions. That is my absolute favorite thing as well to do. And I love swimming. I love floating in the ocean on my back and having my ears under the water and just listening to the stillness or the sound of the water rolling. I love sitting around a fire at night, hearing hyenas call in the back. Yeah, those are all the things that are the most valuable to me.
I think you found the key to life. You definitely have the spirit and the personality to write fabulous books, fabulous children's books. I can already tell just by listening to you. And I think there are so many lessons in just the fact of living a simple life. I can't imagine going traveling without my cell phone. That must take an amazing amount of restraint. And I don't know if I could do that or not. So good for you. I don't think I could do that.
Thanks. And by the way, that's hard for the first 2 days, and then you forget about it. Really, take your cell phone next time, but just try and forget that you have it, and see how good it feels.
Okay,
give it a try.
I will definitely give that a try. So I have kind of a big announcement to make. So every year for the last 11 years, I have challenged myself. It's more than 11 years, but recently in this last several years, I've opened it up to include the public or tell the public what I'm doing and take a few people with me. So what I do is I find something that actually scares me, whether it's public speaking or taking a new course, getting a new degree, or just doing something physical, like I've climbed a few mountains. Yeah. And the whole purpose is to get out of my comfort zone and push myself to see what I'm made of. And of course, it builds confidence, which is a great byproduct. Yes. And it is very transformative. So this last year, I took a group of ladies and we climbed up to Mount Everest Base Camp. We were climbing for 3 weeks and every single woman's life was completely transformed. I mean, came home, quit their job, changed, and they couldn't be happier. They couldn't be happier. And we were filthy dirty and all that. Yes. So 2021, I am taking a group of women and we are going to come visit you and go on safari and experience Miss Annie Africa. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Absolutely. Please do.
Excited.
Good. You are very welcome.
In the meantime, where can people find you on social media? Where can they find your books? Definitely your Our Horns, I believe it's called, your Rhino Foundation. Where can we find you to support you?
Yeah, so I am quite active on Instagram. My private Instagram is Annie.Africa. Annie is ANNIE. Africa. And on my bio, you will find where you can buy my books. It's through a site called Mascot Books, but it's on my bio. And at the moment, there's actually a bundle available for, I think, till the 5th of May. There'll be a bundle of both books for $25.95. So yeah, definitely. If your viewers want to get something great for their grandkids or their kids to read to them at night, have a look at these books. They are lovely. And I think I would have loved that as a kid as well. And then My Rhino Foundation is called Our Horn is Not Medicine. And we have a 501c3 status in the USA. And most of our support actually comes from American donors. So if you want to help with counter poaching, which is extremely important, please have a look. We do need all the help that we can get out here.
Well, Annie, you are such a good person to let all the listeners know. If you go to mentorsandmogulspodcast.com, you can click on her episode. We'll have links to all of her pages and her social media. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story. I'm fascinated and cannot wait to meet your lioness, your mentor, one of these days.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, my dear. This was lovely. And it's so nice to have to chat to you. And yeah, I hope your viewers enjoy this chat as well. So thank you.
This was terrific. That's all for this week. Thank you for listening to the Mentors and Moguls podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to rate and review the Mentors and Moguls podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find bonus video episodes at mentorsandmogulspodcast.com or check out our events page and our blog at heatherrstone.com. Until next time, make it a great day.